He raised a glass to his father's legacy, then fired me before the whiskey hit his lips. The room smelled like money and mourning. Velvet drapes, stemmed glasses, soft jazz too polished to feel sad. They'd rented out the Whitlow Estate's glass ballroom, complete with a six-tier seafood tower no one touched and waiters dressed like apologies. I stood near the back, black suit, clean shave, third glass of still water. Not by the bar, not by the casket photo, just close enough to hear it all. Chase Whitlow tapped his glass twice. That glass, etched crystal, limited edition, one of the founder's last orders before his stroke. He hadn't earned it. He just inherited it. People quieted. Phones dropped. Every face tilted toward the podium like it was holy. Chase smiled that too-white smile. Thank you all for being here to celebrate a man who built something from nothing. Pause. My father gave this company everything, and now it's my honor to carry that torch forward. There was a ripple of polite claps. I didn't join. And part of honoring that legacy, he went on, means letting go of what no longer fits. Something in my chest twitched. No one looked at me. Not yet. Chase swirled his drink. Some transitions are uncomfortable. Some are overdue. Still no one turned, but I felt it. The weight shift. The quiet hush that isn't silence, but anticipation. Effective immediately, Chase said, grinning like he just closed a billion-dollar deal. We're refreshing our leadership, modernizing, streamlining. That means saying goodbye to certain figures from the old guard. He didn't say my name. He didn't have to. Every board member glanced, some over their glasses, some without moving their heads at all. I didn't blink. I didn't breathe. He lifted the glass. To clarity. To the next chapter. To Whitlow 2.0. And just like that, I was gone. Erased in real time, with crab legs sweating under the table and an HR rep clapping near the buffet. Not a call, not a meeting, just a death sentence in a rented eulogy. He took a sip. Cameras flashed. I adjusted my tie, one hand sliding into my coat pocket. Not shaking, not rushed, just precise. My fingers brushed a thick black envelope. Inside, clause 11.4, notarized, time-stamped, signed by the man now framed on the memorial easel. I didn't move, didn't speak. Chase kept talking about vision, about innovation, about leaving behind what was no longer scalable. The crowd clapped again. A few even smiled. He thought it was over, that he'd rewritten history while the ink was still wet. But I didn't show rage. I showed restraint. Because when you're holding the detonator, you don't flinch. He smiled for the cameras. I smiled for the contract I kept in my coat pocket. I didn't wait for dessert. By the time the applause started again, I was already halfway to the coat check. Didn't slam the door, didn't grab a drink. Just nodded to the valet, took the keys, and drove off into the kind of dusk that makes everything feel like foreshadowing. My phone buzzed once. An email preview from Whitlow HR. I didn't open it. I already knew the subject line. The garage light blinked twice before it flicked on, like even the house had to brace itself for what came next. I hung the jacket on the back of a chair, loosened my tie, took 3 slow breaths, and walked straight to the fireproof safe under the stairs. Not the gun safe, not the file cabinet. The one with the handwritten code taped under a family photo I hadn't updated in 6 years. Turned the dial, clicked once. Inside, one envelope. Thick, matte black. My handwriting across the front. Clause 11.4, do not open unless they're stupid. I pulled it out, placed it flat on the table, sat down slow like I was performing surgery on memory. The seal was untouched. The paper, still crisp. I slit the top with the same letter opener Leonard Whitlow had given me the day he promoted me to Executive Director of Ops. You're the engine, he said. Don't let the suits forget that. They forgot anyway. Inside, 5 pages. Typed, signed, initialed, notarized. Dated. May 17th, 2017. The year I rebuilt their southern hub with duct tape and caffeine. Clause 11.4. If Daniel Riker is terminated without cause and not by Preston Whitlow directly, the company agrees to 3 years of salary, paid within 48 business hours, full vesting of stock options and bonuses, lifetime health and dental, immediate release from non-compete and IP constraints. Oh, and my favorite part, any violation will trigger breach penalties equal to 2 times the annual vendor average. I smiled, just a little. Taped to the final page was a yellow sticky note. I'd added it the day we filed. You fired who exactly? I didn't waste time. Opened my laptop, pulled up the auto-drafted draft marked "in case of idiots," attached the clause, added one line. Per section 11.4, please process accordingly. BCC'd Malcolm Ford. Not for help, just for witness. Not for... Then I hit send. There was no drama, no fireworks. Just a single Gmail whoosh and the hum of a man who'd already planned for this 5 years ago. I closed the laptop, took off my watch, let the silence do the talking. By the time Chase finished the toast, HR had already received the envelope. The thing about building a machine is no one notices the mechanic until the gears stop turning. They thought logistics was just trucks and spreadsheets. Boxes in, boxes out. But this company didn't run on deliveries, it ran on timing. I was timing. For 6 years, I wasn't just managing routes. I was rewriting them. Quietly, methodically, like a ghost hiding inside the motherboard. The first storm hit in 2019. Hurricane Isla flattened our southern hub, took out 70% of volume overnight. Everyone panicked. I didn't. 3 hours later, I rerouted every shipment through temporary ports I'd mapped the year before. No applause, no bonus. Just a cold cup of vending machine coffee and a nod from Leonard. That was when I started the off-grid build. No headlines, no memos. Just a system layered behind the one they bragged about in quarterly reports. A skeleton frame that could replace the main artery in under 48 hours if things went sideways. Redundant vendor trees, independent route protocols, custom forecasting code based on a decade of seasonal anomalies. Labeled in my cloud drive as MIRRORLINE, not illegal, not even hidden, just unclaimed. And now that same skeleton was about to become the only thing still breathing. While Chase was out playing CEO on Instagram, I was scrubbing admin privileges. One by one. Quiet clicks in the dark, no alerts, no red flags. I left just one access key, mine. Synced to a security token I kept behind the lining of my briefcase. The one he'd tossed aside when HR boxed my desk. It was still there. Untouched. I double-checked the locks. Backup FTPs, revoked. Invoice mirroring scripts, isolated. Warehouse node credentials, redirected. Nothing illegal, nothing malicious. But they wouldn't find their way back in without a map I no longer planned to hand out. The irony? Every week for the past 5 years, I wrote a summary report called Operational Resilience Snapshot. Nobody read it. Chase once told a recruiter logistics was the basement of the brand. I smiled at that now, because the basement had cameras. And I'd been recording. I opened the server dashboard one last time, let the cursor hover over the protocol scheduler. A message blinked faint in the corner. Next event, Friday 11:59 p.m. Cache flush plus route redirect. Right on schedule. I leaned back, let the silence wrap around me like armor. This wasn't vengeance, not yet. This was architecture. The kind you build in layers until one day, they rip out the top floor and realize the foundation never belonged to them. By Friday at midnight, Whitlow's entire infrastructure would be nothing but echoes. At exactly 8:42 a.m., the slideshow glitched. Right as Leonard Whitlow's face filled the warehouse screens. The lights didn't flicker. The screens did. At first, it looked like a buffering issue. Then the photo of Leonard in Vietnam froze mid-fade, the frame twisting pixel by pixel into static. 30 seconds later, every routing display on the main floor turned black, and then red. 2 words blinked at the top of the logistics command dashboard. Source, BW Consulting, Austin, TX. Someone dropped their coffee. Somewhere, an automated voice announced, Vendor sync. Failed. The tribute paused, but the silence didn't. It expanded. One of the shift leads, Beth from regional, jogged to the console. Tried a reboot. Nothing. Meanwhile, across the floor, pallets sat untouched. Forklifts powered down mid-motion. Printers screamed error codes like a choir of dying pagers. In a break room in Ohio, Tony Vega, the overnight guy, checked his inbox. 10 alerts, all time-stamped within a 2-minute window, all pointing to the same admin override. He clicked open the metadata. Initiated by C. Whitlow timestamp. 2:03 a.m. Location, external, mobile VPN. He didn't call it. He called Karen from legal. Karen answered on the first ring, already out of breath. Tell me it's ransomware. Tony's voice was flat. It's dumber than that. She hung up without saying goodbye. Back in HQ, teams were scrambling. Vendor portals showed inaccessible. Invoice logs were missing. Drivers had no routes. Every warehouse across 4 time zones reported the same 3 words: data source missing. A junior IT tech, young guy, nervous eyes, traced the new data channel to a third-party aggregator based in Austin. The registration address? B. Whitlow Consulting, LLC. No one spoke for a full 3 seconds. Then, chaos. Karen stormed out of her office, phone already dialing. Get Preston. Get Chase. Get me a damn broom because this just hit the fan. Chase wasn't in the building, not yet, but his shadow was. And buried beneath his midnight stunt, behind the redirects and rerouted data flows, was a trail he'd been too arrogant to erase. Because sabotage looks like destruction. But theft? Theft looks like ambition with a bow tie. What he tried to do wasn't just criminal, it was embarrassing. He thought he could rip out the heart of a 20-year supply chain, repackage it, and sell it back to the board under his own name. And I didn't have to lift a single finger to stop it. I just let the system collapse under its new owner's stupidity. They thought it was sabotage. I knew it was Chase trying to sell the skeleton of a machine he never built. It was Daniel, Chase hissed. He's sabotaging us from the outside. Karen didn't even look up. She was on her second triple espresso, sleeves rolled, voice thin from hours of putting out fires no one could explain. Chase stood in the middle of the war room like a drowned cat in a designer coat, trying to yell over the sound of his own collapse. Everything was working fine until he left, he snapped, voice cracking on left. Karen held up a tablet without blinking. Your login, Chase. Your IP. Your timestamp. He stammered. I was just testing infrastructure resiliency. You rerouted every invoice to your own shell company in Texas. He blinked. It's not fraud if it improves margins. Then the door slammed. Preston Whitlow, hair uncombed, eyes bloodshot, no tie, no smile, walked in with a printout clenched in his fist. Which of you idiots cost me Reinhardt Freight? Silence. He threw the paper down on the table like it had insulted him personally. Subject line. As of noon, we will no longer be working with Whitlow Logistics. Please contact our new partner, Ford Integrated. 3. Other emails followed. Same tone, same message, different vendor names. Old ones, loyal ones. The kind that built Whitlow's backbone. Preston looked at Chase, then at Karen. Where the hell is Daniel Riker? I was exactly where they'd least expect me. Calm, clean-shaven, seated at a cafe 3 blocks from Ford Tower. Malcolm Ford didn't do public meetings. But today he made an exception. Gray suit, pocket square, watch that didn't tick. Voice like silk in a storm drain. I've waited 5 years for you to call, he said, sliding a blank check across the table. I didn't touch it. He raised an eyebrow. Not enough? It's not about the number, I said, reaching into my coat. It's about the signature. I placed the condolence card between us. Simple white, embossed border, tasteful gray lettering, with deepest sympathy. He opened it. Inside, a scanned contract from Reinhardt, dated this morning. Signed, sealed, already routing freight through Ford Integrated. Ford smiled slow. How poetic. 1 down, I said. 6 to go. He leaned back, fingers steepled. You really want to burn the house? No, I said. I want to sell the bricks. There was a pause, clean and heavy. Then he nodded once, like a general watching the first domino fall. Ford didn't blink. He just said, Now that's how you bury a legacy. Conference room B, Friday, noon, one-time invitation. That's all the message said. No subject line, no header. Just the time, the place, and the silence underneath it. I sent it to 22 people. No attachments, no promises. Just a door to walk through if they were ready. Every reply came back within 6 hours. All yes. One added, It's about damn time. Friday arrived quiet and overcast, like the sky knew something was ending. I walked in at 11:54 a.m., alone, holding a manila folder, a black pen, and no apology. The room was familiar. Long table, scuffed floor. That one flickering light they never fixed. It used to host quarterly morale check-ins, but no one left those with morale. Now it was a war room dressed like a meeting. By 11:58, the seats were filling. Beth from regional, Marcus from security, Anya from routing ops, Miguel from vendor strategy. Each one carrying something sharp in their silence. No one asked what this was. They already knew. Each handed me a page, resignation letters, dated, signed, some notarized. Marcus dropped his on the table and said, I brought mine laminated. We didn't smile. Not yet. At the far end of the table, someone had left a white card, folded, Sharpie ink in shaky block letters, for the king in exile. I didn't ask who wrote it. I just took the seat in front of it. The air was thick but still. Not fear, not grief, just readiness. I opened the folder but didn't speak. Didn't need to. Because when 22 people sit in a room without a word, that is the speech. 11:59. The clock on the wall ticked like a slow drum line. Someone exhaled. Another adjusted their watch. Then, footsteps. Fast, heavy, controlled panic. The door opened, and there he was. Hair slicked back, shirt too crisp for comfort, tie askew, rage simmering behind a CEO mask. Preston Whitlow. He scanned the room, eyes darting from face to face, stopping at each resignation letter like they were landmines. He hadn't spoken yet. Neither had I. We just looked at each other with two very different kinds of silence. Mine was earned. His was empty. The seat across from me remained empty until Preston Whitlow walked in. What the hell is this? Preston growled, voice scraping like gravel under boots. He stepped fully into the room, flanked by Karen from Legal and Chase, who looked like he hadn't slept since his side hustle got exposed. I didn't stand. I didn't look away. Just folded my hands over the manila folder, the one now surrounded by 22 resignation letters like tombstones. It's called a vacuum, I said calmly. You're about to feel what it's like to run one. Chase scoffed. This is mutiny. I nodded once. This is notice. Preston's face flushed crimson. You come in here, rally my staff, and think, what, that you can negotiate? I opened the folder. Page 1 slid forward. Vendor switch confirmations. 9 signatures. All dated this week. All live by Monday. Preston didn't blink. Karen did. Page 2. Internal routing maps. System access logs. Blank fields across the top, right where their backups used to be. Page 3. My resignation. Notarized, time-stamped, already processed through my lawyer. Preston scanned them all, fast and feral, like he was searching for a line that might save him. Chase, meanwhile, paced like a caged frat boy. This is industrial sabotage, he snapped. He's blackmailing us with our own data. Careful, I said, sliding the flash drive from my inside pocket. You're throwing words around you don't understand. He froze. I held the drive between my fingers. No theatrics, just fact. This, I said, isn't your data. This is the system you tried to steal, the structure, the pulse, the architecture. I let the silence stretch. The others didn't move, not one. You tried to steal the engine, I continued, but I was the fuel. Then I set the flash drive on the table, closer to Preston than Chase. Chase lunged, fast, reckless, ugly. He reached across the table like a man who still believed tantrums came with applause. And that's when Marcus, quiet, loyal, unflinching Marcus, stepped between us, grabbed his arm midair, held it just long enough to make Chase remember gravity. Preston didn't shout, didn't flinch. He just looked at Marcus and said, voice low, escort my son off the property. Don't let him touch anything. Chase's face turned ghost white, then sick green, then boiled red. Dad? Now. Marcus didn't speak. He just walked Chase out, one hand firm on his back, the other near his radio. Karen stared down at the table like it might disappear if she blinked. Preston looked tired, like a man realizing the kingdom he inherited was built on rented silence. I stood slowly, no smirk, no speech, just enough stillness to let it all sink in. Chase screamed. I didn't. One of us had power, the other had noise. This seat taken? I asked. Malcolm Ford looked up from his scotch and gave the faintest grin. Only if you're done rearranging the map of American logistics. Private lounge, downtown, real mahogany, real silence. The kind of place where suits whisper and pens write futures. He slid the check across the table. No longer blank. I didn't flinch, but my eyes clocked it. 7 figures. No decimal. A number so clean it hummed. Ford leaned back, jacket crisp, hands steepled like a man watching a chess match he already won. I've offered you a seat at this table 5 times, he said. You've turned me down 5 times. Timing matters, I said. He nodded. So what changed? Preston handed the keys to a child, and I said, then fired the mechanic holding the brakes. His grin widened. I didn't touch the check. Not yet. Instead, I reached into my coat and slid forward a single page. Plain white, letterhead faint, folded 3 times. He unfolded it carefully like it might bleed. At the top, vendor transition memo. Subject, Ford Integrated Logistics. Signed by 3 major accounts. Already dated, already agreed. Ford's fingers tapped the edge. You're not here for money, he said quietly. I'm here for impact, I replied. And I don't come alone. He waited. I want 48 hours, I said. I bring the people, the roots, the contracts, everything that made Whitlow move. He swirled his glass, considered. Build your own division, he said. Pick your team. I'll fund the war. You handle the fire. I leaned back. You want blood? I asked. No, he said, eyes sharp. I want structure. Just make it surgical. I nodded once. This wasn't a partnership. It was a pivot. And I had one hell of a scalpel. Across the room, a waitress refilled his drink. He didn't notice. Too focused on the memo, the name at the bottom, the shift he could already feel coming. I stood. Ford looked up. You're not going to take the check? I'll cash it, I said. Just not yet. He laughed, low and rich. You're a dangerous man, Riker. No, I said, heading for the door. I'm just finally on the right side of the table. The war wasn't over. I'd just switched armies. You don't look dead, I said, setting the folder beside his coffee. Just misplaced. Preston didn't answer, didn't flinch, didn't blink. Just sat there in a black suit 1 size too large, the cuff of his shirt stained with sweat or regret. Hard to tell from this angle. The board had gathered for a second round of memorials, a private wake disguised as a leadership retreat. Closed doors, folded napkins, no cameras. Grief rewritten as strategy. They hadn't expected me, but no one stopped me. Not the guard, not the assistant holding the seating chart. Not even Karen, who saw me step in and suddenly found the floor fascinating. I didn't sit, didn't shake hands, didn't eat the catered salmon. Just walked the length of the table and placed the folder down right next to Preston's untouched cup of coffee. He finally looked up. Eyes bloodshot, hair too neat. That hollowed-out expression men wear when they realize the machine they built no longer recognizes their fingerprints. The folder was cream-colored. No logo, no label. Just wait. Inside, 9 vendor transfer agreements. 22 resignation confirmations. A full-page printout of the new logistics dashboard. Across the top, Ford Integrated. Color coded, humming, live. I didn't say much, didn't have to, just one line. You taught me loyalty. Your son taught me leverage. Preston stared at the cover, not moving. One of the board members coughed into her hand. Another shifted his chair just slightly away from him. The room wasn't loud, but it wasn't quiet either. It was the kind of silence that follows impact. I adjusted my cuff, nodded to no one in particular, and turned for the exit. I didn't look back, didn't wait for a response, didn't need a speech. That wasn't the point. I wasn't reclaiming a seat. I was removing the table. He opened the folder. I opened the door. Only one of us would recover. The new office doesn't have a vending machine. It has sunlight. Floor 38, skyline view. Not the tallest building in the city, but high enough that the noise stays below me now. The espresso machine hums. Marcus leans against the glass, sipping from a matte black mug like he's been drinking good coffee his whole life. He hasn't. Last year, he was pulling graveyard shifts next to a flickering LED and a microwave older than half the interns. Now, director of logistics security. Full benefits, company car, window seat. I asked him once if he missed the old place. He looked at me, took a sip, and said, I don't miss waiting to matter. Neither do I. The 22 are here too. Beth, Anya, Miguel, not under me, beside me. Each one leads their own unit now. Each one earned a title no one at Whitlow ever thought to give them. The dashboards run smoother. The routes think faster. Even the vendors smile when they call. There's a new plaque on my desk. No name, no title, just 3 words. Built, not bought. Across the room, my inbox dings. Subject, internal clarification request. From the board, private sender, Elias Monroe. Junior partner, wool suits in July kind of guy. Would you be open to clarifying the events of last quarter? He writes. No hard feelings, just seeking a fair record. I hover over reply, think for half a second, then close the laptop. Outside traffic flows like clockwork. Inside, my team is already 3 moves ahead. No scrambling, no fire drills, no damage control, just movement. That's the legacy I wanted. Not revenge, not press coverage, just proof. Proof that the man they tried to erase didn't vanish. He scaled. They buried the wrong man. I just built the system that remembers. Sometimes the silence you walk away with is louder than any victory speech you could have given. There's a moment, after the noise, after the betrayal, after the cold realization that loyalty was a one-way street, when you stop trying to prove your worth to people who were never listening. That's the real turning point. Not when you get even, but when you get free. It's easy to believe we owe something to the systems that shaped us. The companies we bled for, the families we protected, the institutions that praised our usefulness but never our humanity. But survival isn't the same as legacy, and endurance isn't loyalty if it's only ever asked of you. What matters is how we carry ourselves through the fire, with precision, not vengeance, with stillness that unnerves, not noise that fades. Power, the quiet kind, isn't about making them pay. It's about making sure they can never erase you again. Because in the end, some people inherit empires and still lose everything. Others get erased and build what lasts. And when you finally stop knocking on doors that were never meant to open for you, you realize you were the damn architect the whole time. Thank you for spending time with this story. If something in it echoed something you've lived through, a moment of being overlooked, erased, or underestimated, just know you're not the only one. And you're not crazy for remembering what they tried to forget. If you've ever had to rebuild in silence, walk away with your dignity instead of a round of applause, or carry the weight of your worth when no one else would, I see you. If this story resonated with you, feel free to leave a comment. Your story matters too. And if you want more stories like this, ones that honor quiet strength, sharp minds, and hard-won peace, feel free to like, share, or subscribe. No pressure, just a welcome seat at the table. Until next time, take care of your power. You never needed permission to hold it.